In the time it's going to take for you to watch this, hundreds of businesses are going to face some kind of digital attack. For a few, it'll be a minor hiccup. But for others, it could be the end of the line. So today, we're diving into the art of digital defense, how you build a real fortress for your information systems, and maybe even more importantly, how you create a playbook for the day that fortress is breached. And to do that, we're going to follow the story of a company we'll call Innovate Corp. We're going to see them build their digital fortress, we'll watch as it gets breached, and then we'll find out how a really smart recovery playbook helped them not just survive, but actually come out of it stronger. Our journey starts right now with building that fortress.
So, meet Innovate Corp. They're a fast-growing e-commerce company, really at the top of their game. But here's the thing. Their entire success, their website, all their customer data, their logistics, it's all built on their management information systems. And as we're about to see, their greatest asset is also their biggest vulnerability.
Now, to really get what's at stake here, you need to understand two key terms. A threat, that's the danger itself, right? Think of a hacker actively trying to find a way in. Then there's a vulnerability. That's the unlocked door they find, maybe some software that wasn't updated. For a company like Innovate Corp, the constant hum of these digital threats, it's like living on a fault line. And ignoring those tremors is just a recipe for disaster.
So, how do you protect a digital kingdom? Well, it's not with one single wall. Smart security is all about layers, kind of like you'd fortify a medieval castle. It starts with setting the rules, then you deploy the right tech, and finally, you physically lock the doors.
These layers are managed through three different types of controls. You've got administrative controls. That's the who and the why, basically the rules for your people. Then there are technical controls. That's the how, the actual digital tools that enforce those rules. And finally, physical controls, the where, which is all about protecting the actual servers and hardware that data lives on. Let's break each of those down. First up, administrative controls. This is all about human behavior. Innovate Corp created a super clear security policy. They vetted their new employees with background checks, and they ran regular training to teach everyone how to spot things like phishing emails. This whole layer is basically their human firewall.
Next are the technical controls. This is the technology that's actively protecting your systems 24/7. Innovate Corp installed firewalls to block malicious traffic, they used encryption to scramble all their sensitive data, and they made two-factor authentication mandatory for any critical system. Think of this as the high-tech digital alarm system for their assets.
And finally, we have physical controls. This is about protecting the hardware itself. I mean, you can have the best software in the world, but it doesn't mean a thing if someone can just walk in and unplug your server, right? So Innovate Corp kept their servers in a locked, climate-controlled room with biometric access and cameras everywhere. Okay, so Innovate Corp has its layers of defense set up, but how do they actually monitor them? Well, they use some specific control technologies that act like their digital watchdogs, constantly keeping an eye on everything that's happening in the system. First up, audit trails. Imagine a digital logbook where every single time a file is accessed or changed or deleted, it gets recorded. If something goes wrong, this logbook is the very first place investigators look to see exactly who did what and when. It is all about accountability. Next, you've got IDS and IPS. The easiest way to think about this is an intrusion detection system, or IDS, is like a silent burglar alarm. It spots suspicious activity and sends an alert. But an intrusion prevention system, an IPS, takes it a step further. It doesn't just spot the intruder. It actively tries to slam the door shut before they can get in. Now, backup systems they're absolutely non-negotiable. This is your ultimate safety net. Innovate Corp was constantly creating copies of all their critical data and storing them in a totally separate, secure location. This guarantees that if the worst should happen, they have a clean copy ready to go. This is similar to audit trails, but it's focused specifically on the front door. Access logs track every single login attempt, whether it's successful or not. This helps the security team spot weird patterns, like tons of failed login attempts from a strange location, which could be a huge red flag that an attack is coming. So, Innovate Corp did everything right. They had their three layers of defense, their digital watchdogs were on patrol, but you know what? Sometimes the worst still happens. A really sophisticated attack combined with one simple human error created the absolute perfect storm. On day 472 of their big security push, disaster strikes. A coordinated cyber attack makes their main servers crash. At the exact same time, a data breach starts siphoning off sensitive customer information. The fortress has been breached. The fallout is immediate, and it's public. The news breaks, customers start to panic, and the company's reputation, which took years to build, is suddenly on the line. The pressure is just immense.
And the cost of this failure was just staggering. We're talking 3 full days of downtime, over 1 million customer records exposed, millions of dollars in lost revenue, and that's not even counting the fines and legal fees coming their way. For a lot of companies, this would be the end, but not for Innovator Corp.
So how did they survive? Well, because their planning didn't just stop at prevention, they had a plan for failure itself, a disaster recovery plan, or a DRP. This was their secret weapon for surviving the chaos.
A DRP isn't just some vague idea. It's literally a step-by-step instruction manual for chaos. It tells you exactly who to call, what systems to bring back online first, and how to manage the crisis from both the technical and a communication side. It's the thing that turns pure panic into a procedure.
So Innovate Corp's team immediately activates their DRP. They follow a clear 5-step process. First, they'd already done their risk assessment, so they knew this was a possibility. The first real move was backup and recovery, getting critical systems back online from those secure off-site copies. While the tech team worked on that recovery strategy, they also jumped to testing, finding and isolating the breach and patching the vulnerability that let the attacker in. And finally, and this is just as important, was training. Their communications team followed a pre-planned script to keep everyone, employees and customers, in the loop.
Look, the recovery was tough, no doubt about it. But it was organized and it was efficient. Because they had a plan, Innovate Corp didn't just rebuild what they had, they learned from the attack and they built back even stronger.
And this is why having a DRP is so vital. It's not just about getting the servers turned back on. It's about minimizing that financial hit, saving your reputation by communicating well, and just having an orderly process that keeps people calm and focused. Ultimately, it makes your whole organization more resilient.
So let's just recap the core message here. All those security controls, the administrative, the technical, and the physical, they're all essential for building your digital fortress. But no fortress is invincible. The disaster recovery plan, that's your blueprint for rebuilding, and it ensures that a catastrophe doesn't become an extinction event. So, having a backup is one thing. That's just one piece of the puzzle. The real question I want to leave you with is this: do you have a plan? Do your people know exactly what to do when those alarms finally go off? Because being ready to recover, that is the true test of a resilient organization.